Hello, family. Welcome to Sunday Dinner Conversations. My name is Dr. Shelley, and I am so excited for today's show. We are going to be talking about the LGBTQ community and religion, and really understanding the relationship between religion and the church and our kids. And so I'm very excited. I want to jump right into the topic. But before we do, I do want to thank our sponsors at the 5Fs to Love Network for continuing to bring this information and this show to you. One of the things that is so critical when it comes to this topic is to understand that this topic impacts Black families sometimes more than any other, especially based on our deep roots in the church. Right now, according to the 2019 Black and African American LGBTQ Youth Report, 77% of Black and African American LGBTQ youth have heard someone in their family say negative things about LGBTQ people. What this does is this heightens anxiety for our young people who may be considering coming out, or may even stifle them from coming out. Most recently, as this morning, and you all know some of the work that I do with schools and districts and being a coach for superintendents, student services directors, principals, and others in the education business, where this topic has often come up, whether it was around transgender bathrooms or whether it was about just the idea of our LGBTQ youth being able to express their affections for one another, much like our high school or middle school age youth, heterosexual youth do. And so this topic has come up so many times. I was just sharing right before the show that even this morning, as recently as this morning, I received a call from a student services director that another transitioning LGBTQ youth has taken their own life. And this is happening over and over in our community. And we don't necessarily like to always talk about it. But y'all know when it comes to the Sunday dinner table, we talk about everything. Right now, according to that report I was referencing earlier, the 2019 Black and African American LGBTQ youth report, 47% of our youth have been taunted or mocked by family for being LGBTQ. Let's just pause for a moment and think about, not only are they dealing with all the challenges out in the world, but 47%, almost half, have been mocked by family. Only 19%, 19, less than 20%, less than 1 in 5 of our kids say they can definitely be themselves at home. Right? Isn't that what we're raising our kids for? Is for them to be able to definitely say they can be themselves at home? And another statistic that I just had to bring out is that only 26% of LGBTQ youth have had family get involved in the larger community to support their issues and show that we actually care. We actually want to make sure that this is not some kind of scar or something that you need to carry on your own. This is part of who you are, and we support who you are. To continue with a couple more statistics, because we need to see how big this is in our community. 59% of the children surveyed, and these were over 1,600 Black and African American children that were surveyed. 59% say their families make them feel bad about their LGBTQ identity, including 67% of our transgender and gender expansive youth and 55% of cisgender LGBTQ youth. All of that to say, folks, is that this is something that our community needs to talk about. And because many times, and I shouldn't say just not to give us a statistic, literally of all the cases that I've dealt with, only 2 have I had people not share that religion was one of the reasons, because God fill in the blank around LGBTQ youth. Well, today we're going to talk about it. I have brought my amazing pastors who have stewarded me and my husband and our family through so many of our journeys, and they are admirable people that we just are very proud to have on here. We have my pastors, or I should say our pastors, for my husband and I, Pastor Tamika Casey and Pastor Sam Casey, that are here today to talk about this exact topic. Now, when we come back from break, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them, bring them into the show, and also invite you to give your comments so that we can all get involved in this Sunday dinner conversation. We'll be back in a moment.
My name is Christine Burkett. the inventor of the 5 F's to love. This is a compatibility app. It's an app that gives you an opportunity to rate words that start with the letter F in chronological order of importance to you, to help you find your one true love, your soulmate, and the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So after you've taken the time to rate your F's in chronological order, you send a link to the person, I don't know, you just met, or the person you've been dating for quite some time. Or maybe it's the person you've been married to for 30 to 40 to 50 years. And then you compare your top 5 F's to find out what things you have in common and things that you may perhaps need to work on. This is taking a simplistic perspective on how to find your one true love, your soulmate, the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And thank you for downloading the 5F's app.
Welcome back to Sunday Dinner Conversation. So we're about to jump into this conversation. As I bring my guest on, I'm inviting Pastor Sam and Pastor Tamika here. Pastor Tamika Casey is the one of the authors of an amazing book called Leading Change Through the Lens of Cultural Proficiency. She is also a a school principal in San Bernardino City Unified, and also one of my amazing sorors from Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So we want to welcome Pastor Tamika Casey to the show.
Awesome. Thank you.
So glad to have you here. And her amazing husband, who is our lead pastor at New Life Church of Fontana. We are so blessed. And he's also the executive director of the Cope Foundation in the Inland Valley. We don't say the other word, in the Inland Valley. And he is just an amazing steward for not only this work, but just being a great Christian and a great example for us.
Wow.
We've got to become closer over the Underground Railroad trip, where I really got to see you just become very different. It changed both of our lives. So welcome to the show, Pastor Casey.
We're so excited to be here. Thank you so much to our sister, Dr. Shelley Holt. We love you guys.
And you know what, the love that we have for each other, I cannot thank you enough for just always showing up for me and our family on all of our endeavors. I want to just start out because most folks don't know who you are, and I want them to get to know who you are. And so can you give us a little snapshot of your family and your family and your love for the community you serve? Give us a little bit of who you are.
Absolutely, babe. Won't you go first? Ladies first. I want to at least act like I have some manners.
What?
I'm probably downstairs, right?
Right. This is hey, love from the Casey family. Tamika Casey here, like you said already, a very proud principal of Cole Elementary School in the city of San Bernardino, but the co-pastor of New Life Christian Church right in the city of Fontana. We are just a family that believes in the love of God, and just want to exude that love. I want to be the instrument, the vehicle through which God's love is shown to my community, especially the African American community, all of my Black and brown babies at work, and my own Black babies in my household. Just want to be that guide, that guiding light that he can depend on. And with that being said, babe, what would you add?
No, I think we're just a normal family that just so happened to be called by God to lead people who have been entrusted to our care, not only inside the walls of the church, but certainly within the community. And we love.
How long have you all been together? How many kids?
Oh, wow. Okay. You wanted to know that.
Yeah, just like I know this.
Yeah,
but they don't.
She been jocking a brother for about 30 years.
There you go.
You know what I mean? But look, just been jocking me 30 years. You know what? We've been together since 91. Wow. November. Wow. Chaffee College. In the student center.
Yeah.
I shot my shot and didn't fumble the rock. And we've been together.
Walk me to class,
been
walking with me ever since.
Yeah.
I love it.
But that was before the Lord. Three wonderful children. Three adult children.
Awesome. And so that's what I was trying to get at. It was just, first of all, just know that they truly are the epitome of Black love, just love in general, and love within the Christian faith. And I feel honored oftentimes to be a part. I shouldn't say I've been, because I'm still a part of New Life. Just because I'm not there
Come
right
on.
now doesn't mean that I'm not still a part of the congregation. Can you share with us a little bit about your home life and what's life like now as empty nesters? Considering I couldn't reach y'all yesterday. What's life like as empty nesters? Tell us a little bit.
Let me jump in here real quick that we were empty nesters for
They
about 4
returned.
years. They come back, y'all. They come back. That's why we were gone on our excursion.
I hate man. So you have kids that left and then realized this whole pandemic adulting. I just saw a meme about that. They were like, you're paying $12 for eggs. Yeah, I'm going back home.
Right.
Yeah, one of our children said, I turned in my resignation from adulting. I don't want to do this anymore.
I love it.
Can I give my 2-week notice?
Right. I would give my 2-week notice to be in adulting. And you also have another daughter who just cheered last weekend for the Eagles.
Yes.
Mhm.
Our middle daughter, Tamia, graduate of the Lincoln University, University in Lincoln, Pennsylvania, never came home. She says, "Look, I'm staying on the East Coast," and end up. This is her 4th year. I think she has to try out again in the spring,
Mhm.
so she'll be trying out again. So amazing experience for her. Amazing
Right.
experience.
And so I do want, we do have to take a commercial break, I almost unfortunately, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the role of faith in your relationship journey. And then of course, the role of faith as we are going to get into conversing about the church and LGBTQ community. We'll be back with Sunday Dinner Conversations with Pastor Sam Casey and Pastor Tamika Casey in just a moment.
Baby, I've been thinking about the things we said. Oh yeah. And maybe we'd be better off being just friends. Oh yeah. It's getting kinda obvious what you want from me. Only calling when you feel alone. You make promises, then you let them go. So if you just wanna have my body, you better go find somebody else. Baby, do you even think about me at
Welcome back to Sunday Dinner Conversations with the Caseys. And so I wanted to just go ahead and ask around what role has faith played in your journey as both a couple, but also as parents? What role has faith played in that?
Well, I'm a church kid. I grew up, come from a family. Uncle pastors in St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up in the church. Had my wilderness experience from probably about 9th grade to after I graduated from high school. A year after that, just so happened to meet Tamika. So I'm a church kid. I love the church. Always have loved the church. And even when I was in my what we backslidden, I still had a great love for God, and so grateful that He covered and kept me doing that 3.5 sort of 4 year journey. But when I came back to church, within 6 months, the Lord had called me into ministry. But I knew since I was 13 years of age that I knew I was called to preach, and ran from it until I was about 19 years of age. Then I met Tamika.
I love it. And we're going to juxtapose that whole running from your true calling in a moment. Pastor Tamika, what role has the faith played in your journey as a couple and as a parent?
Yes, faith has played a tremendous role in our journey for sure.
Absolutely.
Because I was not a church kid. So we definitely had very opposite opposite lives growing up as it relates to faith and the church. But I praise God that He's always had His hand on me, although I wasn't brought up under His love and care. As Pastor Sam was. I mean, I did, it was the old adage, send the kid to church. I was sent to church. So I wasn't raised with the praying grandma and all that, but from the time we were married until today, faith has played a tremendous role in our lives. I mean, that's one of the things I talk to the kids all the time. I'm like, okay, I asked them today, do you guys remember what I used to say to you every day before you left the house? No matter where you went, honor God.
Mm-hmm.
And they still remember to this day the fact that we just really believe that we are where we are and who we are today
Absolutely.
because of the grace of God.
That part.
He has had His hand on us through so many things, ups and downs in our lives. And
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Him, we wouldn't even be here. So we are just so grateful, But so faith is a tremendous role for us.
Absolutely. And I love the way that you brought it all the way to how you raised your kids. Honor God. I
Absolutely.
often tell Jordan and the bigs, as we call them, because we have to separate them into bigs and the littles. But we always say to the bigs, you know what? Remember whose you are. Remember who you are.
Absolutely.
Remember whose you are.
Absolutely.
Because when they start getting out in this world, who knows, what's going to take hold of them, and kind of start to steward their journey, whereas we may not. And hello, Monique, welcome to everybody that's chiming in. Go ahead and please, by all means, you're welcome to comment. And so, pastors, go ahead and share with us the moment you knew one of your children was part of the LGBTQIA community. Did anybody know ahead of time, or how did you find out or figure it out?
That's an interesting question, because you have a sense, but you just think it's a phase,
Mm-hmm.
and then it continues, and then you have to address it, and lean into it and determine how you're going to respond. Let me be honest, it was a terrible journey for me, at least. I wish I could take back some of the moments, things I've said, prayers I prayed, oil I smeared, casting out. And at the end of the day, that's your child.
That. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
that the same God who formed you formed them and
Yes.
breathed His life in them. And then here's the crazy part: entrusted someone like me to be the father of all people in the earth, that I now get the privilege. Listen, let me not put these roses. I struggle daily, still living through questioning, what didn't I do? Did I hug enough? Did I not give enough intimacy? Not having intimacy myself growing up, from a parent, from a father. And so I tried to be all those things that the church, questioning my anointed. Am I anointed? How can I do this? And God, why would you do this to me? And then now I see it really as an assignment on my life, on our lives, and a privilege to be a parent.
Yeah.
To a transgender child, adult.
Well, right.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta remember that these aren't babies anymore. They're grown
Right.
folks. And I appreciate you speaking your truth on that journey, because I know that was not easy.
Not
But
at all.
I'll admit, the minute I found out, I was like, my goodness, what better parents to have.
Wow.
Like
Oh wow.
literally that the moment I found out, I went, oh my goodness, if anybody on this earth I would
Wow.
want a baby to experience that with, it was you two. And I know it wasn't easy. Pastor Tamika, what was it like for you when you first found out?
Well, we struggled with this from middle school.
Middle school. Yeah.
Um,
Middle school.
is when we kind of realized it wasn't really, I mean, as a parent, you can definitely tell. And so that's when we pretty much knew, but it wasn't a spoken thing. It was just unspoken. And it was a difficult time because I tried to reconcile it with how can I be accepting and loving to other people, like
Yes.
other family
Yes.
members, cousins, an uncle, but then when it hits my door in your own house, it's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother feeling. I embrace my uncle and cousins and other people around me, people that I worked with, and
Yes.
but then when it was my child, I had to take a step back. It was just very strange. But as I realized, I'm like, that's hypocritical. Like, girl, bye. How are you going to be accepting of all of these others, but you can't accept in your own house? So it was a wake up call for me, for sure. But it's a journey that God's brought us on that I wouldn't exchange or change it for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
And
it's go ahead.
no, and then more specifically, freshman year in high school is when our child and I went on. Let me just say it. Our son and I, at that time, daughter still, but our son and I went on a walk. And I just plain out asked, you know, what's up? Because I noticed you're changing from dressing more like a female to a male. I understand basketball, but you gotta wear basketball shorts every day with your slides and socks, like you more gangster than I am. And I and then I just asked, do you like girls? And the response was, I don't know, Dad. I don't know what I like right now. you know and
Right.
that's how the conversation started, and it wasn't always so colorful. Let me tell you, we've had some difficult moments, and let me say this: I applaud my wife, and I don't think I've ever said this in any of, we've done these before. Like my wife, if it had not been for her, really coaching me through and being patient with me, because it had gotten to a point to where she was the referee, literally.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Mhm.
foul on the play.
Right.
Don't do that again.
Right.
That was wrong, for me.
Right. And some of
um
those conversations you had to have
Absolutely.
behind closed doors. And that's where
Yes.
your relationship comes together. And you're right, Monique. It's a whole other when it's your child versus everyone else's. I remember when Art and I first found out, and it wasn't a formal thing. It was just kind of like, oh, Jelly has a girlfriend. And we're like, Art?
Hmm.
Okay. And so it wasn't kind of like you. It's like, at hindsight, we started to think we're like, ooh, okay, we
Yeah.
probably should have put, some things together. But it's a whole different world when it's your own. What were some of your excitements and concerns specifically? Like, I'm sure there were things that you were concerned about. We could talk about those, but what were you excited about, if anything?
I'll let you start with them, babe. Because of the transition from male to female, what was your greatest fear, if you remember, and it was right around the time when just violence against black males,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
specifically
yeah.
law
Yeah, yeah,
enforcement, like
yeah.
out of go ahead.
Yeah. I just felt for mothers of black sons. And I'm like, okay, do you see what this world is right now? And you're choosing to be a black male? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't want to be in fear that I'm going to get a call or see my child on the news or being shot down by the police or drug out of a car or, for being a black man. And it scared me. It really scared me. I had already been in prayer and for, friends of mine and their children, and all of those are black men growing up in this society, and how there's just this disdain and hatred.
Yeah.
And to know that I felt safer having black girls, I felt
Wow.
more at peace. But then to know that my child, is going to be my son, was a whole nother level of fear.
Oh,
that, that many people face already. And then
Yeah.
then now I'm on that journey. Even now it's like, okay, now when you get pulled over, we got to have the same talk that everybody else got to have with their
yep.
son.
Keep
Yep.
your heads off,
Yep.
all of that after. I mean, you know what, Tamika, of all things I had never thought about, you're right, because you had only had girls. And so not having a young man that you had to raise, we're thinking about, like, my mind having 4 boys, I've been thinking about that for years. But imagine now you're thrown into thinking about it in a whole different way amidst all, George Floyd being murdered right in front of us. And now all the way to Tyree Nichols and other African-American males that have been murdered right in front of us. And, knowing that the world does not hold our Black males in the same regard as it does anyone. I mean, there could be an argument made for Black females as well. But when we come back from break, we want to hear from you, Pastor Sam. Like, what was it like for you now going from, having Black girls to now having Black males? What were some of your excitements and concerns when we come back on Sunday Dinner Conversations with Dr. Shelley on the 5F's to Love Network? See you in a moment.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
Loving how you wind up for me. Tonight is all on me. Mash up the place for me. Yeah. She just wanna highlight. Ooh, that body talk to me. I need a taste, baby. Loving the way you move around me. No more delay. No, you can wait to shut it down. Won't you show me how you work it? I can't find no flaws, you perfect. Cause every time that you come around my way, I keep falling again. I keep falling again. And every time that you come across my mind, I keep falling again. I keep falling again. In love. Yeah.
Hi, welcome back to Sunday Dinner Conversations. We're so glad you're here with us, Monique. Keep commenting. We appreciate it. We want to keep you engaged. And yes, they are your awesome pastors. And so we want to continue this conversation with our amazing pastors around the church and our LGBTQ youth. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the pastors have a son who is transitioning or has completed. I'm not sure where he is in the transition. But what we were just talking about were some of our excitements and fears or concerns going from raising Black daughters to now raising a Black son or an adult son.
Yes. Here's the reality. First of all, shout out to Monique, our beloved sister, and the entire family, the girls who are watching in Beaumont, California. We love them. But to answer that, my excitement was, and we typically end with this one, but I'll insert it here, that we have a live son and not a dead daughter.
That part.
Bottom line.
Wow.
Secondly, the excitement is that my child is now finding himself. Those are the things I'm excited. Wrestling through it, still figuring some things out. Um, but I'm excited that I watch him model from my style of dress at times, jacking for my cologne. So I got to keep my room door locked now, so you don't be all in my cologne. That stuff expensive.
That right?
But then I watch. But hear me. I watch my son now open the door for his partner. I watch him care for his partner the way I care for his mother. And but here are the things that I'm concerned about. I wasn't fathered. So let alone, how do you father a son for which you yourself don't have a model for? Let alone a transgender son.
And let's add the other piece to it, though, and be pastors of a Christian
And
church.
be pastors of a Christian. Absolutely.
Because that's the piece right there where it's like, hold on, because we know society can be very cruel to a lot of folks. You know, we've been black all our lives. We know what it is to walk in this skin, whether male or female, and now to add on being part of the LGBTQ plus community, particularly within the transgender category, and transitioning from male to female in the black community within the black church. How do you address some folks that may still be on their journey to figuring out, you know, how you unconditionally love your son? How do you address some of those folks?
You know, everyone is on their own journey. Let me say that. And notice it's a journey. You're never going to arrive until we meet face to face with Christ. And what helped me with coming to the position that I'm in, you got to go and read. So I've read a book that I need to reread, and I suggest to every family. Love is an Orientation, powerful book written by a conservative Christian who went through his journey and how the Lord dealt with him while he was in college, and now has this just worldwide ministry of ministering to families. A new book I just got this week called Embracing the Journey, that has a workbook for specifically for Christian families. But here is my challenge. It's predominantly white led. And the lady who referred this book to me told me that until the black pastor in black church stands up and lifts its voice, which is the prophetic voice and prophetic consciousness for this country, that until we get together on this and really and truly operate in unconditional love, and what that means, and not ostracizing or othering people the way we have been othered. So now we become oppressors of the same system that oppressed us. And I don't believe that that's the will of God, the God I serve, and the Bible I read now with a different lens. I believe the Lord is setting the stage for those of us who clearly love him and have been received by his son and graced by his son's sacrifice, then should know what it's like to love, because we have received it authentically ourselves. And if we cannot love in that fashion, which means love stretches us, that if your love is not stretching you in all your relationships, whether it's a heterosexual or whatever kind of relationship we're in these days, same gender loving or whatever, we've got to learn how to love to the point to where it stretches us out of our form, so that we can pick up the image of Christ, who doesn't have the same hangups we have.
Right? I love how you talked about how the same church, the same Bible, the same Christianity that was used against us as Black people for centuries, now many of us are mistakenly, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say mistakenly, using that as a weapon against the LGBTQIA plus community, and it's leading to deaths.
Yes.
One quote from the 2019 survey says, "My mom supports gay people, but she doesn't want a gay daughter." And we
Wow.
feel really good saying this. But when it
Mhm.
comes here,
Come
it's a
on.
little bit different.
Come on.
Yep.
It comes in with then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, what happened, to all of this love and the basis of Christianity? Pastor Tamika, weigh in on that.
Absolutely. I mean, we can, for some reason, as a Christian, as Black Christians, we can tolerate other things, but for some reason, this one thing is something that we cannot like back down from. Like you can beat your wife and you can be drunk. You can it's so many things that you can do that we won't say too much about. But be doggone if you are homosexual, transgender, a part of this community, then all of a sudden it's hell and brimstone. And so that bothers me about our community. And I never saw Christ throw somebody away. I see him embracing those that are seemingly untouchable, those who are, and I don't understand. It just really bothers me the way we as a Christian community can throw people away so easily. Um,
Yes.
just under the auspices of God, when there's many things that we've done and that we are doing that he has not thrown us away. And so the God that I serve, I believe, loves Courtney just as much as I do.
Yeah. If not more.
He, if not more.
Right.
That is his child
Right.
that he has blessed me to be just a steward over for this time on earth. So that's my son, that's my
Yeah.
child. And it just bothers me that our community will judge this as a sin that's so unforgivable or something that is just so outlandish when there are so many things. For me, it's not a tally. This is worse than that. This is going to send you to hell. And sin is sin. So
Period.
don't come to me with a measurement. You know,
Yeah. Can I
when
say?
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, babe.
No, I'm sorry, babe. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
I was just
sweetheart.
gonna say how we like to look at um, the splinter in someone else's eye, but we got a big log, a big
Look at
forest
the log.
worth of trees in our own, and we can't seem to see that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if because this is a conversation around Christianity, Matthew chapter 13, verses 47 and 48 talks about how there's this big net that the Lord lets out. And the net is so full, it's all kinds of fish in the net, all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things in the net. But then what he says literally in verse 48, when the net was full, they drew it to shore and they sat down and gathered the good into vessels, but they threw out the bad. So it's at the end of the age will come forth and separate the wicked from among the just and cast them into the furnace. But here's the thing. We're not doing any of that. It's the angels of Christ. So why are we trying to separate and divide now? What we ought to be doing is promoting the love of Christ that has responsibility attached to it. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be quiet because I know there's some other things we need to get into. We're only really having a conversation about what people are doing in the privacy of their bedroom. Let's be clear. Because loving the same gender is not the sin. The sin, if we want to classify it as that, is when individuals engage in what we want to be in other folks' business about. And that's debatable.
It ain't none of our business.
And it
Ain't
ain't,
none of my
Ain't
business
none of your
what's going on in your bedroom.
and listen, I'm not condoning. So anybody's gonna come for it, brother. I'm not condoning. All I'm saying is ours is to deliver the news and allow people to sort through it, because Jeremiah says, by loving kindness have I drawn thee. We're not going to draw people with hate. We're not going to draw people with othering. We're not going to draw people with telling them that they're less than and they're not the image of God. Who are you?
That woo, and
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to be mindful because they got on me about saying that part, and I'm like, oh, but that part right there, exactly, yes. Something that, and I don't know if I heard it from you or if it's just a culmination of just sitting in church with you for many years and then sitting online with you for almost 2 years while we were here. But I remember that it came to me one day, and I don't know if you said it, that who am I to judge somebody else because they sin differently than I do?
Absolutely.
I have 2 kids out of wedlock. Hold on, stop, pause for a minute. And if we do the math on the other one, we might might find some stuff there too. Who am I to judge somebody else because they sin differently than I do? And that for me was a turning point on a lot of things, not just the LGBTQIA plus communities. Because if you remember, that's when I started to go real hard for the LGBTQ community when I was in Fontana. It was
Yes.
right after I realized, oh my goodness, I have been judging and I have been sinning it. I don't want to be judged. I don't
Yes.
want anybody judging me. That's between me and my God. That when I get to St. Peter, he and I gonna have a conversation, and that's gonna be between us, right? And just like it will anyone else, that's not for me to judge because
Yes.
they may sin differently than I do. Whoa, and I love the part where you just said the actual sin is quite frankly being in everybody else's business because that's not where you should be.
Right. And Lisa, even on the judging piece, if we're going to judge, don't use a standard that's comfortable to you. Jesus from Matthew chapter 5 all the way to Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 12, where he tells us, judge not that you may not be judged. That's how he ends that sermon, the whole stretch of the Sermon on the Mount. He pulls on the realities of what Moses said in the Old Testament and give them functionality in what Jesus says on the Mount of the Sermon. And he lays out for us for 2 chapters how we are to judge. And if you can't judge this way, don't judge at all.
Don't judge at all. And so, what would you say? And I feel, Monique, thank you for joining us. Pastor Sam just said it. What do you say as people of faith about the word of God being used as a weapon against the LGBTQIA community? What do you say to folks who are staunch in that, who say things to their children that could literally bring them to the point of death? What do you say to folks who weaponize our faith?
Proverbs tells us the power of life and death is in the tongue. Specifically, those of us who are Judean Christians and follow the word of God, if you even read it consistently, that the word of God instructs us how we're to talk with one another. And I failed my children. Specifically, Courtney, let me be honest, said things I shouldn't have said. And once you say them, you can't take them back. So I would say to any parent, any family member, any individual who's in the midst of this, please guard your words. Do not speak out of anger, which is really fear. Do not be led by fear. What you're feeling in the agitation and the discomfort is really God trying to stretch you into a new shape and a new form that resembles him and not nothing else in the world. And so what I would say to families, watch what you say. Words can be weaponized.
Yes. And
I know if you want to add
it's no, I was just gonna say, I mean, and it's like we said earlier, it's just a journey that we're all on. And everyone's journey is their own. But
yes.
we really want people to just trust God on this journey. I mean, I remember I was battling back and forth too for prom. I had to take
Yes.
Courtney suit shopping. I had already done, the dress shopping with the other girls. And, then it comes Courtney's time to go prom shopping. And we were, at the suit store.
Devastated.
And I was having a fit internally. So those were some of the things that really, so we're not going to sit here and act like we were there, like we've arrived. But right now, just to say, we had to trust God. We really just had to continue to trust in him, lean on him, and to love
yes.
unconditionally. No matter, bottom line, I'm going to love my child. through whatever I have to go through, whatever I'm experiencing and going through. And it took us away. It took us a little ways to get there. But like I said, it's a journey. And what I love about this journey, it's a give and take, because we have people contacting us.
Yes,
People, what bothered me really about this journey, we put our lives out there on Front Street
on
from
Front
the
Street.
beginning, when Courtney was just identifying as lesbian. And then later on, when we went to visit Courtney,
In
Courtney joined the
Jacksonville.
military.
Yep.
We went to Jacksonville to visit, and I got something to tell you guys. And we were, what she got, what we still struggling with them pronouns. So sometimes you might hear me say she, sometimes you might hear me say he. My baby was, I had raised her 21 years, 20 years as
Hmm.
she. And so when she made the transition, so I'm still working on the pronoun. So, but I still love my child and accept my child as my son. But on that journey, when we got the word, it was, we couldn't believe what's Courtney gonna say. Courtney getting married. This is happening. That's happening. We're trying to guess on what the
Hmm.
news was gonna be. And Sam's driving the car. Courtney's in the back, and we're playing the guessing game. So you getting married? No. Is it this? No.
Did you
And
guess
then
it?
Sam says, you having a sex change operation. And the car got quiet. He turns around, you having a sex change operation.
Oh, oh,
And
Sam came out, I'm
it,
sure.
it was like, no, but I am transgender. I believe that I was born a male. And so we started that journey. And what does this mean? And had
Right.
so many questions, and but we never told Courtney that ain't what you supposed to be. And it was just something we internally struggled with each other, but we embraced our child, loved our child. People were on, when we had this announcement before the whole world,
Hmm.
basically, on Facebook, on any social media platforms, we get inside, behind the scenes messages. How can you do this? Or how, help us, or my child is this or that. But I'm wondering, okay, if I gotta live it out loud
Publicly. Come on.
on Front Street, don't ask me the question in my inbox. Ask me right on my post. And so those are some of the things that really I struggled with personally. I've had so many lunch dates with people to discuss this. Someone who works in the school district, I'm thinking we're going to lunch talking about work. Sit down, and that was the first. Tell me about how you and Pastor do this with Courtney, my child. And so then I'm ministering to folks on my job. And um, one woman, I didn't even know her son was homosexual. And we're having lunch, and I just so happened to bring up about Courtney. I don't know what the conversation was and why. And I said, and people would disown their own children behind this. I
Hmm.
cannot believe it. My God has never disowned anyone. He didn't disown me when I was raggedy, and all of these
Mhm.
things. And then the woman broke down crying at the table. And she and her husband were in the process of kicking their son out
Wow.
because he admitted to them that he was gay, and they could not accept it. Well, the husband, it was more so the husband, and I just prayed with her at that table, and I just shared the love of Christ and how we love because they're Christians, really staunch, religious. And I just asked her, please show me where that is in the Bible. And if you can show me that, maybe I can be on board. But my husband and I, we love our child. And when I expressed all of the things that we were, dealing with our son on testosterone and going through the
Yes.
transition and all of those parts of it,
Yes.
and she later on had to email me and thank me and all of those things. But those are some of the things, like people coming in the inbox on the backside of this whole conversation and not wanting to live it out before the world, before other people. And I think that's how you bless someone else. Live it out loud.
I
Absolutely.
feel a book coming from you
Absolutely.
all or something, because I think there is so much that you just walking the talk, because there's a lot of folks that can come out and do this. and to be able to see you and witness you be able, because even though you didn't have to tell me, Sam, that it was a struggle for you, well, from what I knew about you and has having spent some time together on that trip, I was like, oh, ooh.
Yeah.
And I know this did not go as beautiful as it seems on Facebook, but being able to make the full journey and bring it full circle, because what many folks don't realize is we all are going to have our moments, and we are
Yes.
all entitled to our moments and entitled to our feelings and emotions, because in a sense, like you said earlier, you have an alive son, you don't have a dead daughter, and that
Right.
is what we have to come to that, and the power behind that. And when we come back from break, I want us to be able to give some words of wisdom and encouragement to other families that may be struggling with this, especially using the church and religion as a tool or a weapon for their own challenges. And if you had something to say to younger you, what would you say
Oh,
in
wow.
preparation for what you were dealing with? So I'm giving you a moment to think on those as
Wow.
we come back to Sunday Dinner Conversations with Dr. Shelley on the 5F's to Love Network. See you in a moment.
Boots and come dance with me.
I just want to respond to Rod really fast. There's a psychologist. Yeah,
Never going back, going up, going up, going up.
Welcome back to Sunday Dinner Conversations with our guests, Pastor Sam and Tamika Casey. Monique, I want to thank you for being here and showing up with us. Monique said that as confused as I was and as hard as it was to receive my daughter as a lesbian in October of 2020, through all the pain of the pandemic, she had no choice. But the greatest of these is love. And you are so right. And we're so proud of you for really doing what you know needed to be done. And Monique, you continued to say to praise God that you all have allowed your journey to bless others. And if that's not what we are here to do, I'm not sure what we're here to do, because I know that my purpose here is to literally be able to bless other people. And I know you shared a little bit about this, but if you can illuminate for us, the New Life Church is an amazing place. I've never walked in somewhere, and the moment you walk in, it's different. And that's the only way I could describe it is you got to feel it to know it's different. And maybe when you've been to all these other places, I've never found another place like New Life.
wow.
Share with us how you received support from your family and the church family as you were going through this, because we don't often talk about the transition.
Yeah.
It's a transition for the entire family. And because we want to be supportive, but like you were saying earlier, we're still working on pronouns. I'm working on this, I'm working on that, on top of everything else that we're doing. What was that support like from New Life?
Well, listen, New Life Christian Church is a wonderful church. Not because of us, but I believe because of God's vision for the church of
Mhm.
changing lives and making disciples. And everybody's in a different process and journey of that change. But the ultimate goal is to turn people into disciples by teaching them to do three things: love God, love themselves, and love others. And if your life is not
Mhm.
becoming, then you should.
Then you should be coming to new life.
That was the
That,
commercial. But
oh,
listen,
yeah, right. And New
but
Life Church is in Fontana, California, and they're also online, have their Bible studies online. And something I just want to make sure we always remember about the Inland Valley, formerly known or known to others as the Inland Empire.
Mhm.
right.
Fontana is the founding place of Hells Angels. It had at one point the largest KKK in the nation. And I'm giving you that because as we talk about not just Black issues, but also Black LGBTQIA issues
Mhm.
Yes.
in the
Yes.
community that we came from.
Yep.
And, for those of you who know a little bit about me, the work that we were doing in Fontana when I was in the district there as student services director, a lot of it was centered around the LGBTQIA community because that's when the transgender bathroom laws were coming out and we were all learning. And regardless of us learning, though, your learning or your ignorance on this topic does not give you license to mistreat people or ensure that people aren't treated with respect. And that was something that I had to learn just going, I'm learning about this, but do I go? And I remember, Pastor, you said to me, do what you feel is right. And I went. I was like, I don't know how
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna look. I don't know how this is gonna work, but I know a community here is struggling and I have a voice that I can lend. What was that support like for you and your in the church?
It was amazing. Not only
Mhm.
from everyone at New Life, but everyone in our family. I did not hear not one negative thing um, from no one in our family, no one in the church community. I've only had one negative comment one time that was on Facebook for someone um, who remained nameless, but I've not received anything negative. More than anything, how are you guys doing it? How are you wrestling through this?
Yes.
And let me say this: Tamika may be an expert, but I'm no expert. I'm I'm just a man who decided to love his child the way Christ has loved me.
Mhm.
I'm not an expert, so I'm not on here as an expert. Although I'm a pastor, yes, I'm a theologian and all of that, but at the end of the day, I am a son of the Most High God, redeemed by his son Christ, received as his beloved, and then in turn trying to appropriate what he has given me as stewardship over, which is my children.
Mm.
All that other stuff, man, that don't make us. He not gonna judge me on how many members, how was the budget, how many community outreach, how well did you organize in the community to bring policy and practice change? Was it equitable access for everything? He ain't gonna ask me none of that.
No.
How did you steward your
How did you
wife
love?
and
How
the
did you like
children that I
this?
gave you?
Yes.
Then he'll
Ooh.
start talking about the church and all those other things. So I'm only successful if that is what it is considered because of how I love my wife and love my children and my son.
Yes. Pastor Tamika, I know wow. Wow. Did you feel the same, appreciation and love for the church?
Absolutely, absolutely. We had no, I don't even remember this one comment that he's talking about. We were well received by the community. Um, so much so, I was really surprised. I was waiting for the backlash. You
Mhm.
know, the LA in me was ready I was waiting for the
Right,
backlash.
you know
You know,
what?
right?
Let's not
You know,
play.
like y'all know First Lady Tamika. Y'all don't know Tamika Powell, from South Central. No,
Moochie mama.
Moochie Mama. She was ready for the cut because I just knew it was coming. I just knew it was coming, and I guess God knew they didn't want that smoke. So we just had to. We had to just. God allowed us to have a really great transition into
Great
this. I mean,
community. Yeah.
yes, our church family, everybody embraced our child, and many folks knew our child as small. So with
Yeah.
all the dresses and the having them dress alike with the bows and the stockings and all of that we find out later that Courtney absolutely hated.
The whole time.
But
And I'm sure
they
Auntie Gina knew that too. I thank you for joining us, Auntie Gina.
right, right, and they knew, they knew Courtney growing up. And so then to watch the transition with us, to totally embrace our child, love on him, still to this day, anything, Courtney can call anybody in the family, in the church
Man,
with a need, and they there, Johnny on the spot, ready to help
absolutely.
and
And
to
have
be
been
there
there.
for him, and have been there. And so we have been blessed in that. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I was ready to defend it if I had to, but I
Right.
Absolutely.
didn't. Thank God I didn't have to. But yes, it was a tremendous blessing.
Right. And you mentioned earlier, about it being a little bit different in the South. And when he was in the South, I'm praying that his experience was amazing. But we know sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult in that area. And again, thank you for being here, Gina and Albie Dar for you. Appreciate you being here. What would you say to other parents, especially church going
Mhm.
conservative parents who are maybe struggling with their child being part of the LGBTQIA community, or they believe it's happening and they're not sure how to approach, which I know was something that Art and I had to deal with as well. What would you say to them? Tamika, why don't you go first? What would you say to them?
Really quickly, I would just really say, ask questions. Be
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
curious.
Be
Don't
curious.
make judgments. Just be curious. Ask questions and listen. Be a sounding board, because our children need to be heard. They need to be seen and felt, like I matter. And so listen and let them express who they are, genuinely, and give them a safe space to land, because they are going to get it out there in the world. They don't have to get it from us. So really just be that safe space and listen. Um, and I'm still learning to be more curious,
Mhm.
because we're still on the journey as well. But
Absolutely.
I would say be curious.
Be curious,
Yeah.
listen, and ask questions. Beautiful advice. And so, any mothers out there that are struggling, ask yourself, have you been listening? Are you curious or are you judgmental? Are you,
Wow.
you have to
Yeah.
ask yourselves that question. Am I going to be a sounding board and in a safe space for my child? Or am I going to be another space that they feel judged, ridiculed, maimed, less than,
Mhm.
fill in the blank? And do you want to now have, as you said, Pastor Sam, an alive son, or would you prefer a dead daughter? Because I know a
Absolutely.
family today that is bearing their child next week, right? Pastor Sam, what would you say to other parents who are maybe struggling with this journey?
I think be willing to have courageous conversation,
Mhm.
and don't go to the conversation with any preconceived notions. Be so open, or as open as you can, to have. And listen, I will tell you, it's going to hurt.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
and
great.
and and not only is it going to hurt, but it's going to dismantle everything that you thought that you knew about your child.
Mm,
And what you hoped and dreamed for your
Right.
child.
mm.
And you've got to be okay with that, because at the end of the day, it's their life.
It's their lives.
And we've got to learn to help them steward as best we can. It's like going bowling with your children when they were little. Just put up the bumpers, just
I
so,
love that.
so every conversation doesn't go into the gutter. Put the bumpers up, be willing to hear what you don't want to hear. Be willing to
Mhm.
hear your parenting style critiqued. Um, be willing to love your child as they're becoming,
Mm,
and not the image and the mold that you hoped for them. Because at the end of the day, they're still our children.
that's still your
Mhm.
baby.
And let me say this, I feel this so strongly. The
Yes.
fact that God would birth a child in your family that doesn't have the other struggles, sex addiction, alt drugs, whatever it may be, but this particular, God has given you an opportunity to steward one of his greatest gifts.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's how I approach this. And I'm still failing, still get it wrong, still attitude, all that. Look, I ain't perfect.
You're human. And that, and in your
you know,
humanity, that's, and I appreciate your realness and humanity. And y'all, this is exactly how he is in the pulpit. I'm telling you, he's no different. I loved it because he was no different than when he was on the couch next to me, having a sip of something, or whether he was in the pulpit. I'm like, that's Sam, or
we
whether we're
was
on a
having we,
bus
were-
for,
we
for
were having
9 days.
communion. That was communion service.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, we was having, communion service. So, what would you tell younger you? Because a lot of the folks that may be on this may not have children. Maybe at the stage of beginning this journey. What would you tell younger you about some of the views and such that because we didn't talk too much about some of the views about homosexuality
Yeah.
that come up in church. What would you tell younger you, if you could, in preparation for what you're going through now?
Wow. Oh, wow.
I know,
Uh,
right?
for me,
Yeah.
I would say, remember how you felt. Remember how you felt. I remember feeling judged. I didn't have that struggle, but I had other things, and I felt judged and condemned. Um, I had depression. I had other things,
Yeah.
and wasn't living with this. But I threatened to take my life when I was younger. But don't say that in no black family, girl. Mm-mm.
What's wrong with you?
I,
You don't appreciate what
ain't no
God
wrong
gave
with
you? Oh, they're getting your behind for even thinking about it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Change you right from that. So for me is remember where you were and how you wanted to be heard and how you wanted to be received. So that when it's time for you to be that for someone else, you can be. That's kind of
Mm,
what I would tell younger me.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget how you feel and what you want. The same
mm,
thing you want for your life is what others want, and how can you be there for them?
Wow,
that
I love that,
that's
babe. I only thing I would add, Dr. Holt, Shelley, is what you're feeling as tension in questioning what's being held as status quo. Don't wait till you turn 50 to ask the question.
mm.
I wish as a younger child I would have questioned more. Didn't have the confidence the
Mm.
way this generation, they question in all assumptions.
Isn't it amazing?
It is to a degree because I just don't have answers.
I,
It's a
I
little
I
And
know
it's
annoying.
it's been nerve wracking. I know they can
yeah,
tap dance on your last nerve, but isn't it
absolutely.
amazing to see their confidence in being able to ask? Because
Yes,
I can feel you on that, sitting
yes,
there and having those questions and going, oh, well, I don't want anybody to see me like this. I don't want them to think I'm this way or think
Mhm.
I'm that way. So we were so concerned about what everybody else was thinking that we weren't able to get what we needed at
yes,
Mhm.
times,
yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so I cannot thank you enough for
We're
just
honored and
agreeing to do
privileged.
this with me.
Yeah.
For being, I mean, honestly, this was therapeutic for me this morning as I shared with our entire audience. Having another funeral. I mean, part of the reason I get the calls, folks, is because going through college, I sang at funerals, and a lot of my friends and folks just know that, if you need somebody, I'm gonna help you out if I
Awesome.
can. And so that's how I find out about a lot of them. And some of it's through my job, but others of it is, high school friends or college friends who have somebody, and either they cannot find somebody in the church that will support, the death. And that's even a bigger, even scarier thought, right? That now someone's life is gone and we can't even get somebody to help with the celebration of life because of judgment about their views about how they lived. But I thank you for being those examples for not just Art and myself, but for all of our kids who have felt comfortable and safe and welcomed at New Life Church.
Mm.
Christian Church of Fontana. And so thank you again for being here. And to my audience, thank you for being here for this Sunday dinner conversation where we're really encapsulating this idea of being there for our children. One more statistic that I want to share, and this again came from the same report, and it said that 90% of the 1,600 African American children that were interviewed or surveyed said they had trouble sleeping. And
Wow.
I'm not going to go into all the issues around our children and their growth and being able to sleep and how it impacts anxiety, how it impacts their ability to perform in school, perform in life, etc. Our
Mhm.
children need their rest. And what this is saying is that our children, on top of everything else that they have to deal with being Black in America, they are not able to sleep as a result of the fear that they feel. And part of what our journey is about, it's about being courageous in spite of everything else. So I ask you, parents and community members, how are you being courageous in the leadership of your family? We've heard today how the pastor, the Casey family was courageous in the face of something that many of us couldn't even imagine. And they handled it with such grace, style, and class, but also the realness that comes with, hey, we still gonna talk about this. Like, I'm still gonna have my reactions, but we still deal with it with the grace and class, because we know courageous family leadership is our ultimate responsibility. It is what God has blessed us with, is the ability to lead our families beyond the fears that may exist in this earthly realm, to ensure that they have the amazing experiences that we want them to have. And so I say again, even when I found out, I was so glad that Courtney had you as his parents, because I knew he was going to be all right. You may not have known it, but I knew I was like, oh, yeah, he'll be all right. That was literally, it went through my head, because I know no matter what, when you have people that are willing to look in the mirror and think about who they are and how their impact is on other people, those are people who are undoubtedly going to live and be courageous in our family leadership. And so I want to thank you all for attending. Thank you, folks who attended online: Gina, Monique, it looks like Albie, and everyone who joined us on this live broadcast. And if you're seeing this broadcast and you want to reach out to either Tamika or Sam or myself, please pick up Tamika's book. It is called, if I want to make sure I get the title right, because the Lindsay's, there's so many cultural proficiency books. This one in particular is Leading Change Through the Lens of Cultural Proficiency. It's an amazing text, which is a buildup on cultural proficiency, which is a topic we talk about a lot in our courageous leadership academies and institutes through Leadership Legacy Consulting. So I want to thank you again for being here. And as I always say, if nobody told you they love you today, know that I can safely say the Caseys love you. I love you. You are loved and appreciated. And we are thankful that you are here with us. All right. Till next time, folks. See you soon.
Peace.